Hello and welcome to HITC Sport, and for Christ's sake, how on earth is this still going on? No, not that man, I'm miles behind. I'm on about the Newcastle Takeover saga that just refuses to end. The whole thing's been going on for more than a year now, with Toon fans unsure if they're going to remain owned by Mike Ashley or go on to become one of the richest clubs in the world. This week marked a year since things seriously ramped up, as PCP Capital Partners agreed a deal to buy Newcastle, and all they needed was the seal of approval from the Premier League. Passed the owners and directors test, and the club would no longer be owned by Mike Ashley. Instead, 10% would belong to Amanda Staveley, 10% would belong to the Reuben brothers, and the other 80% would belong to the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia. And that is where the problem lied, and still lies today. PIF are the sovereign wealth fund for Saudi Arabia, and their chairman happens to be the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed Bin Salman. Now, the Premier League's argument was that he would have to be put down as a director and thus have to pass the owners and directors test, a test he probably wouldn't pass. The buyers claimed otherwise and provided what they considered to be proof, and thus stalemate. The deal wasn't going to be accepted, but it wasn't going to be rejected either. The Premier League were happy to just drag their heels and hope they don't drown in what they called new territory. In July 2020, the PIF officially withdrew from the deal. It broke the hearts of Toon fans, it created an almighty cheer at Premier League HQ, and it led to arguably the greatest piece of acting the world has ever seen. I mean, check this out, this is Hollyoaks level stuff, I even got my legs out.
PCP Capital Partners have agreed a £300 million deal to buy Newcastle United from Mike Ashley.
No way, I can't wait to sign Mbappe. Love, have we got any more cans? Oh great, some Takeover news, I'll turn this off.
Newcastle United's Saudi-led takeover is now off after the consortium announced today they will be withdrawing their offer.
Love, have we got any more cans? Wow, chills, literal goosebumps. I don't know how I haven't got any more acting work on the back of that, it's basically criminal. Or at least someone could have offered Mrs. HITC Jameson voiceover work. We're sitting on a gold mine here, we're being ignored. Someone needs to do something about this. But why oh why is the world talking about the Newcastle United takeover once again, nearly 12 months after it first booted off? I mean, some people haven't stopped talking about it, to be honest with you. It's basically what Game of Thrones was for normal people. Although the ending of that was terrible, this is still going on, the football's been turgid, and no matter what happens, whether the deal is passed or whether it's rejected once again, it'll probably be just as controversial. Because while some people outside the corridors of Newcastle might think that this takeover just went away once it was rejected and the Saudis started throwing their money at boxing and F1 and other things like that, Mike Ashley's been assembling a crack legal team to take the fight to the Premier League. I mean, I don't know much about law and legal stuff, but I'm getting the vibe that the team that Mike Ashley's put together are basically the Avengers of football law, and that Nick DeMarco bloke knows his way around a bread bun. Just look at that, imagine having that slathered in butter. That man eats like a king. But anyway, Newcastle and the Premier League are set to go head to head in an arbitration hearing, analysing the way the Premier League applied the owners and directors test and looking to find a resolution to the long-term saga that's gone on so long it's got its own hashtag and cans-based subplot. There's already been a High Court ruling on the matter, as the club looked to have arbitration played out in public and one of the chairmen being removed because of potential bias. Both claims were rejected, and now both sides just wait for arbitration to begin. Apparently that still hasn't started, which means this takeover saga will be going on for at least a few more months. Which is great news for me in a way, because I suppose this is better than having to talk about why Steve Bruce isn't a very good manager whilst I drink out of my In Rafa We Trust mug. Oh, that is cold coffee. Yeah, that is not nice. Speaking of mugs, that brings us to how the takeover hit the headlines once again this week, as the Daily Mail reported that Mike Ashley was set to shut the club's retail store at St James's Park. Christ, that segue was seamless. Honestly, I'm wasted here. Get me on daytime telly. Right, so the little club shop at St James's Park isn't actually a club shop. It's basically just a mini Sports Direct run by Mike Ashley, where they sell cheap socks and tennis rackets, as well as Newcastle shirts and calendars and all the usual crap you would find in a club shop. I mean, it's not on the same level as some clubs. I mean, Jesus Christ, have you been in the Liverpool club shop? It's so big that I had a sweat on wandering around it. Luckily there was a £5 bottle of Liverpool branded water on hand to quench my thirst. Then once I had a drink I was okay, but I was starting to feel a little bit peckish. Luckily there was some cake nearby made with the essence of the cop that I only needed to take out a short-term loan to afford. After that I picked up my Liverpool branded coffee machine and my receipt signed by Divock Origi, and I was on my way to the train station to beg for money because I couldn't afford to get home anymore. Anyway, back to Newcastle. So Mike Ashley is shutting the club shop and making all the staff redundant in the same week that non-essential shops have been allowed to reopen. Stay classy, Mike, stay classy. And the weird thing is, the story about this claimed that it was down to impending new owners. So it was the new owners' decision to close the shop and sack all the staff. I mean, I'm no businessman, but that doesn't really sound like a great way to endear yourself to the new region that you've just bought a club in. And I'm not sure how much I buy that anyway. It's a Sports Direct store, not a Newcastle store. They just happen to be run by the same man. The same man who loves a curry and smashing 12 pints in a row before hiring a load of 17-year-olds on 0-hour contracts. Anyway, it's since been claimed that the store is going to be renovated and ran by the club's impending new kit sponsors. But the line about new owners is certainly intriguing. But it's not over yet, oh no. The plot continued to thicken on Wednesday as local paper The Chronicle unveiled a chain of emails between the Premier League and the pissing government. The paper battled for 6 months to get this information into the public domain from Freedom of Information requests, and finally they got what they wanted. Now that is proper journalism, well done to that man. That is why people go into this field, that's why they spend years grafting, getting their qualifications. They go into it to investigate things, to find things out, and find out the truth. Meanwhile, we just set up a YouTube channel and have somehow made a living from just spouting our opinions for the past 4 years. Anyway, in the emails between the Department for Media, Culture and Sport and the Premier League, the government claimed that they believed a decision was imminent on June 21st and wanted the Premier League to give them notice of their decision ahead of a really important government meeting at Whitehall, which is apparently something important and not just the name of a comedian so posh that he wipes his arse with caviar. Actually no, that would just be messy. Anyway, what's this all got to do with the pissing government? Obviously the international relations thing is a little bit of an issue, but why were they being kept in the loop of a confidential process? Meanwhile the Newcastle fans got told absolutely nothing and they had to settle for people pretending to be HITC on Twitter as they begged for a few hundred followers. Seriously, more dafties on Twitter have claimed this takeover is going to be done on a certain day than Newcastle have won games this season. Anyway, the Premier League got back to the DCMS a few hours later, saying a decision was possible, but that they may need more time as they were in new territory, which basically hinted that the owners and directors test wasn't quite fit for purpose. They also said, inevitably, that means a bit of the grand old Duke of York routing is likely. So what the hell does that mean? The Chronicle did ask the Premier League for an answer to this, but unsurprisingly, they refused to comment. It seems like the only way you can get information out of the Premier League is if you run the country, which I guess is fair enough. If Boris Johnson asked me what I was having for tea, I wouldn't lie to him. Unless it was lasagna, there's no way I'm sharing me lasagna. The grand old Duke of York though, we've resigned this takeover saga to nursery rhymes. Here's one for you. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder how on earth this has gone on for more than a year. That was meant to be year, I just kind of had to force the rhyme in. It didn't really work, but whatever, this whole thing doesn't make sense. Then things got even juicier as the Daily Mail claimed that the Crown Prince Mohammed Bin Salman lobbied the Prime Minister Boris Johnson to intervene, suggesting that if he didn't, it would seriously damage relations between the United Kingdom and Saudi Arabia. This story was so big that it hit the front pages. That's a huge deal, especially considering the front page of the Daily Mail is usually reserved for stories about refugees and bashing Meghan Markle. I mean, on the face of it, Mohammed Bin Salman getting involved in a takeover that is stalled because of his potential involvement doesn't really sound too promising. It's like when people say they're not bothered about their ex anymore, before spending the next 5 hours stalking their Twitter, Bebo account, LinkedIn profile, and Instagram page that's reserved for their dog. I think Will N.E. summed it up perfectly here. I was absolutely dying when I saw this tweet. I don't know what the beef was here, Will. I just assumed it was made up like the Football Daily stuff. But you're alright by me, kid. Because no doubt you've been waiting for my endorsement alongside your millions of followers. The Prime Minister has since denied that he got involved, but since then another story came out that when the deal was nearly resurrected in September, Boris Johnson's response was brilliant. For Christ's sake, Boris Johnson's a mag, isn't he? It was bad enough when this bumbling idiot got confirmed as a Toon fan. Talking about Newcastle nowadays is a minefield. Like, why on earth am I having to write articles about the bloody Prime Minister and the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia? All I want to do is rave about how good Alan St. Maximin is, laugh at his funny tweets, and then bang my head against a wall at how bad Emil Kraft is at defending. We should be talking about what Steve Bruce had with his apple pie. We should be debating who should partner Callum Wilson up front, not assessing the geopolitical war that's been going on between Saudi Arabia and Qatar. The landscape of Newcastle United is an absolute shambles right now, so much so that fans have just had to accept that Steve Bruce is going nowhere and will just pray that he's going to keep winning the Premier League. I mean, I know there was that whole conspiracy on the Kickoff show that Mike Ashley wants them to go down so it's easy to sell them. But come on lads, that's a load of bollocks. Why would the Saudis pay a Premier League price for a championship club? And what about the players in all this? I mean, I know they've been naff at times this season, but they're not trying to get relegated so that a new owner comes in. Because a new owner will probably end up selling them all off and replacing them with more expensive and better options. So aye, absolute load of tripe. But while the conspiracy theories continue, the rumours and innuendo about when a deal may or may not be completed All Newcastle United fans can do is sit and wait and see what arbitration brings. All they can do is just sit and wait. Honestly lads, I'm just going to be here sitting and waiting. I've got a crossword to do. 7 down. The name of the Sports Direct man who owns Newcastle United. Oh, for goodness sake. Right lads, that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. As always, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to HITC Sport. And until next time, we will see you around.